early January 1864. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the generals that are now available to us as a result of it being January 64. I'm going to go over the couple of the kind of generic historical events that happen, go over the builds, and then also our grand strategy options, such as using money and that sort of thing. So first, the generals that we got some pretty good ones. Kershaw here, who is a 3-3-2, but he also has this charismatic attribute. So he provides 5 cohesion and 25% increase in the fatigue recovery. That's actually I've found to be a very effective attribute for generals to have, because cohesion is largely what drives battles. I found the side that can maintain its cohesion longer tends to inflict far more casualties and survive in the battlefield. So that's good. But then also you have the recovery rate. So if you have successive battles, the more generals you have with this recovery rate, the better. And this is just for this ability applies to the leader in command of the stack. Now, that being said, right, so he needs to be in command of the stack, and you're normally not going to have a 3, how would you say it, a 3-level strategic rating commander in charge of a stack. So that's something to be of note. But he's still a 3 attack, 2 defense, so it's still pretty beneficial. So I'm going to move him up to the Army of Northern Virginia, put him in there, and go from there. I got a couple of 3-1-1 guys that I'm just going to move to appropriate places on the map. I think I'm going to move them down towards Atlanta. That's where I'm going to send them. And then another 3-1-1 that I'm sending, I think, west. I think that's where I decided to send them to. I also got General Field. Now, he's a 2-2, which is, again, not too bad of a... it's above average, right? Because average is 3-1-1. He's a 3-2-2. But the reason I have him inside the city of Richmond is that he has this recruiting officer stat. So, the Union, you get a fair number of these, but I want to say this is the first guy for the Confederates you get, where you get this bonus to conscripts. And what you want to do is you want to stick him in a city with a level of 5 or higher, but then more importantly, in a region that has high loyalty. So I'm going to have him for now in Richmond. I'm probably going to move him though. But as you can see, the loyalty is only 70%, but it is a relatively large city. As you can see here, size 8. So you just need size 5 or higher. I may end up moving him down to Atlanta, which let me just kind of show you what that looks like if I were to do that. It's only size 3, so actually we can't do that. So maybe New Orleans. I think the loyalty is higher in New Orleans. It's only 60. So it's a size 10. So I don't know. I'll kind of look at it. Maybe I'll send him to Charleston. That might be a place to send him to as well. Or I'll just keep him there. Maybe just keep him here for now, because I don't know if he's going to hit my coast anytime soon. So those are the generals that we have. As you can see, we've re-established ourselves along the front here. Grand events, papal recognition. Pope Pius the Ninth replied to a letter from President Davis with an autographed picture of himself. Well, that's how nice of him. The accompanying letter was addressed to the Honorable President of the Confederate States of America, which showed that the Pope recognized that the CSA was an actual nation separate from the USA, and that its president was an honorable man. The papacy is the only European state to date to recognize the CSA. And then finally, presidential elections in 64. So basically what this means is that we're in 64, and it requires a different threshold for victory with the morale. So I think, I don't know... Yeah, so it'll tell you on your side of things, like, hey, we'll lose if our morale falls to 25, but we'll win at 175. So the win level is a little bit lower. But for purposes of the Union, the morale level is, I want to say, instead of being like 45, it might be like 60 or something like that in 1864. So there is this window that if you can inflict some pretty heavy casualties, get some major victories, or take DC and, in combination with some other major victories, you could win in 64. I don't know if we're going to be able to accomplish that, as I will show you in a moment, but that is an option available. So he's got a big-ass force here, and I'm contemplating, and I may not be able to make the decision until, say, March, when things in the West become clearer to me, but I'm contemplating just kind of going just fire selling the west and pulling everything east, and then putting an army from the west here where the Army of Northern Virginia is, and then moving the Army of Northern Virginia up to the Shenandoah on his flank towards D.C. However, it is going to take me so much time to do that flanking maneuver that I think he has the forces and the interior rail lines to effectuate a defense successfully, while at the same time perhaps cutting me off. So I don't think it's a viable option. I thought about going around the right flank, but I need ships, transports down here to kind of go along his right flank, and I'm not gonna be able to do that with Fort Monroe being here. Plus, he'll bring his naval fleet over and hit me pretty quick when I do that. I also thought about maybe trying to land, in his rear, but again, he could retreat pretty quickly, and then kind of time against the clock on taking DC. I also would have to build a considerable number of transports, which are very expensive. Let me show you here. And I'm going through this to kind of illustrate my thought process on why there's hesitation. By the way, so I'm going to build this HQ next turn. That's a new one that's available, so I want to make sure I get that. But just for a transport, right? It's 22 money, which is a lot of money for me. I'd have to build a fair number of them just to be able to transport my army over there, and then they'd probably get destroyed next turn. I mean, it'd be kind of a one and done deal where all those transports would get sacrificed because he'd come up with his fleet and destroy them. I would then be isolated, cut off, and so I'd have to hope that I take maybe take Baltimore and its supply depot or something like that, which is an option. Maybe I land here, take Baltimore, use that as my base of operation, press forward to DC, which he's already entrenched though, right? So he could take all of his troops, put them all in DC, and I'd still have the same issue that I have here on the Virginia front, which is entrenched enemy with a river crossing, right? Because I have to deal with the river crossing here. So I just don't think it's going to be an option at this point in the game. While I can dig in and make him attack me. That being said, then that gives him the opportunity to kind of go up Richmond, try and take me from the east like McClellan did in '62, or kind of do what Burnside did, which was kind of land over here in North Carolina. What the Union did later on in the war, which is land in South Carolina, and create an additional front that I have to deal with. I don't care so much about Northern Carolina because my forces are close enough to where I could set up and establish an effective front. But if he were to land in South Carolina, then he's got the rail line all the way to Atlanta, which again I can't lose Atlanta because if I lose Atlanta and Richmond, the game's over. So, and I would suspect that if he takes Atlanta, then he could shift a lot of his forces east to try and take Richmond. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do, but I am definitely going to build up Norfolk. So he's let me have Norfolk the whole game. I'm just going to hold on to it now. I'm going to put a redoubt here and then put a division here. That way, two reasons. One, it'll blockade him from moving up the river towards Richmond. He'll have to land here in Norfolk. And then me having a division here with a wagon and then also supply. As you can see, I have a lot of supply. I could probably hold out for some time and it would allow me to shift forces down to meet whatever he is trying to put there. So we're going to do that. Put that fort there. I'm going to start fortifying Atlanta. All this just in anticipation of, him trying to sneak up and take it, perhaps either from, Charleston moving west, or from the south, from the Gulf of Mexico, move up the river. That's why I put this fort here to stop any sort of advance up the river towards Atlanta. That would give me a chance to reestablish my defensive lines down here. So that's what's going on over there, and then over in the west, as you can see, we're securely positioned behind the river here. We've got three corps protecting there. I am shifting a corps west to support Johnston, and as you can see, Johnston's setting himself up right here because, or where am I going? I'm going back up here, right? Yeah. So I'm going back up here. Originally, I went down here because I wasn't sure if he's going to go down the river. But he's actually going to try and take Fort Donelson. So I'm reestablishing myself here. Again, the reason being is that you know, he can cross the river at these points, but at least if he crosses, like say here, he won't have the advantage of the rail line to go back and forth, at least not initially. So kind of just force him to go here, and then I can reposition just south of him, blocking him off from any sort of advance on Corinth or Memphis. So that's what we're doing there. Okay, so not a whole lot else to report on. Let's go over builds just really quick. So 780 line units that we need for our line infantry, and 75 elite. It's very painful, and 259 cavalry. So that's brutal. And then artillery, we're doing much better. So I'm putting what I can here, but good news, it is now January, so we're building a rail line. But we're going to raise taxes, so it's going to cost us 2 morale, but we're getting $600 for it. It's also going to lower inflation by 1%. So as you can see, our inflation will be 7%, and we'll still have 131 national morale. And then I'm printing war bonds, which is going to lower this another percent, so we'll be down to 7%, and I'll have another 600. So we'll have $1,200 next turn to work with, which is awesome. And we'll go from there. Do a development card here, really just for the loyalty, and then just kind of increase movement going along the rail lines here. And I don't believe I've played any other cards. Let me just verify. Yeah, I might do requisitions and drafts next turn. I haven't decided. I had forgotten, so I talked to Josh, and he actually said, hey, look, like, I'm not going to consider victory points a victory for purposes of the Union if, you know, I can't take Atlanta and Richmond. So we are playing under the rules of unless the Confederacy totally capitulates to the Union, which is going to require either a national morale victory or him taking both of my capitals, it won't be a victory for the Union. So I'm probably going to start playing cards that dig into my victory points a bit more, because victory points just aren't going to be that important anymore. But stay tuned for that. Okay, and then he actually has a fairly large stack here in Dallas. He's got a full division, it looks like. Not sure of what, but I'm actually just going to go around and maybe just go up here. I'm trying to get Pope, or Van Dorn rather, promoted. So I'm just trying to attack somebody. Attack somebody and win something. Okay, damn it. And then with that, I think that's everything I need to cover. And I'll see you on the flip side, probably next video. All right, thanks, guys. Okay, so late January, 64. We had a whole bunch of cash, and we burned through all of it, as you can see. So I'll go over that in a moment. Starting to build up Norfolk here. I put Hoke here, who's a 422. I'm going to give him a full division, and then obviously build a pack train here to give him the ability to withstand a siege. So we're going to build this, and it should be done in 5 turns. I'm going to try and do as best I can, put artillery along this river here in case he decides to land to my east. Beyond that, not a whole lot to report. We're digging in here, and then as you can see, he's reclaimed the Shenandoah. He's only got a division there, so I was trying to attack him this turn. I was trying to get a corps over there, but because of the weather, I just was not able to get over there in a comfortable amount of time. I think it was like let me show you here just real quick, and then attack. But my rail was going down, and then if he brought down a corps to support this guy before I hit him, it'd have been a corps versus a corps, and I just didn't feel comfortable risking those losses, considering that we are still really hurting on all of this stuff. So might as well, since I'm on the screen, I'm building artillery, because I noticed that with the new unit, I have a couple new divisions that are kind of come into play because of the training that I'm doing with I forget his name, Taylor, upgrading those various militia to line infantry. I'm finally getting some new divisions that I can put on the field, but they don't have artillery, so I'm building those. I'm also building 6-pounders here in New Orleans, because those are really good for, right behind rivers, also along, to cease the advance of, fleets coming up the river. So that's why I'm building those 6-pounders. And then I've spent a lot of money on elites, line infantry, cavalry, militia, just trying to put a dent in these massive numbers. I underestimated the cost for like line infantry and elites. So I think what I'm going to have to do is print money, but I want to see what it looks like next turn. I want to see what these total numbers up here look like next turn before I do that. But I do want to, before the spring hits and there's, you know, general engagements happening across the board again, I want these numbers at a manageable level, and I think probably the only way I'm going to be able to effectuate that is to print money, but we'll see. I'm also may have to, and again I want to wait until next turn, but I may have to burn these draft and requisition cards. So the requisition cards give me lots of money, and it's looking like with the conscript numbers that I'm gonna need more conscripts too. So we'll see. You know, I haven't played them yet this game, but I can mobilize. The reason I don't do that though is it digs into your morale, and morale affects your army's ability to perform on the battlefield. So you know, you obviously want your morale as high as possible. Notwithstanding the fact, obviously, that morale dictates victory, but just from a combat perspective, you want your morale as high as possible. So that's kind of what I'm looking at overall. He's got a 5,500 stack here, just south of Nashville, but you know, I've got plenty of forces there to withstand that, so I'm good on that front. Over here on the west, kind of northeast of Memphis, he's got a 3,900 stack. So kind of what I'm doing is I want to see this turn what his plan is, because he kind of has his forces split evenly. He's got a force here in Nashville. He's got this force over here at Fort Donelson, and then he's got this force down here. So I'm not sure which direction he wants to go, and so I'm kind of waiting to see. Although I am trying to pre-position over here near Memphis in the event that he does shift his focus towards Memphis, because as you can see, it takes a couple turns to get your forces in position. In anticipation of him kind of moving across the river at Johnston or down south of Johnston, I am moving my forces out of Paducah. I've burned this depot and this redoubt up here. And the reason being is that if he does cross this river, then it's pretty. It won't take much for him to cut off my retreat along the rail line, and so it doesn't really make much sense to kind of hold on to this anymore, because he's already kind of on my. If he dedicates forces over here, then he's not going to be coming down this river anyways. So I'm kind of reestablishing my defensive front, trying to put artillery along the Mississippi in case he tries to come down by the river. And then as far as troops that I'm upgrading here, as you can see, we're just slowly upgrading these troops, and then we've got a division and a half of troops that we're upgrading as well. And that's why I'm building on artillery, is because as you can see, this division has 3 artillery pieces, but he has none. And then I have some other divisions on the battlefield that only have maybe 3, maybe 2 artillery pieces. So I need to build more of those. I still have this division down here at New Orleans, and then over here near Dallas, I decided I'm just gonna hold pat here and just kind of see if he attacks me, and then if he doesn't, then maybe I'll move. But yeah, things didn't work out. I was not able to make it up here in the time afforded, so now I'm gonna, which actually kind of works out because he had a pretty even number of troops there, plus that artillery piece compared to what we have. So I might move over here and take Grayston just to take it and be annoying. Beyond that, nothing else to report, nothing else going on, I don't think. I'm using the telegraph line here just to kind of build up the development, and also make this a rich location, so make it 80 instead of 75, which will give us a little bit more cash from this particular area. And that's about it. So let's run the turn, and I'll be back.